Hey paisanos, Zachman here. It's no secret I love watching movies, but I also love watching movie trailers. They're an exciting look at things to come, either very soon or not for a couple months. And there were a lot last month. I thought of doing one video originally, just in February, and then as All Star by Smash Mouth says, the trailers start coming and they don't stop coming. So I split it up. I split it up into multiple videos, and this is volume 1, as you will see from the title. The rule that I originally had was that it had to be a first trailer in February, and that if it got a trailer beforehand, I wouldn't talk about it, as I only wanted to discuss things that came out in the month of February. I know there were lots during the Super Bowl, which I did not watch, but some of those were TV spots and had things that were about to come out that week. There was like 2 or 3 movies that came out on Valentine's Day. You know, Madam Web. First off is Monkey Man. Listen, from the title, I was sold. Monkey? I'm there. I'm there day one. But man? Monkey Man? Now I'm very interested. Monkey Man stars Dev Patel and is directed by Dev Patel in what looks to be Bollywoodification of John Wick, which I mean as a total positive. Not only is this directed by Dev Patel, Jordan Peele is an executive producer, which I think is really interesting, and his first foray into an action movie. Unless, of course, you want to count Keanu, which was okay. Monkey Man looks really cool. It has some really cool action. I like the way that he punches a guy through the fish tank, throws a guy onto a hot pan, or throws the hot pan onto him. Either way, I'm a sucker for a good kitchen fight. The Nicki Minaj line is a bit cringeworthy, but every movie has their, comic relief, especially in a James Bond or John Wick type thing. I keep comparing it to John Wick because it's hard not to. Those are like the action movies of this generation, even though they're 10 years old already. At least the first one. That is crazy to think about. However, he's not always dressed to the nines, as the trailer even opens with him wearing a, you guessed it, monkey mask. Looks like he's in some sort of wrestling match or fighting match, like underground. And throughout, Dev Patel is narrating this kind of legend of the white monkey who will rise up and help the people. So I think there's going to be a really cool, thankfully unseen, at least in this trailer, reason that he's doing all this. And it looks like it's a bit more than just a revenge story. It looks like there's some real drive to him, and I'm really curious to see that. I'm probably going to watch this one opening weekend, if not opening day. I look forward to it a lot. I feel like action movies sometimes forget to be good movies and just focus on action, and even then can just be mediocre. This looks like it'll do a really good job blending a good narrative with some really good action. And if it does both those things well, it could easily be in probably my top 5, top 10 of this year already. Too soon to say, but I'm excited. Next up is A Quiet Place, Part 1. I've seen this trailer a couple times now, only in theaters, and I think that really adds into the experience, just in general. Like, if you're gonna watch a movie, please watch it in theaters if you can. Like, that is the way to experience movies. Mini rant over. I'm actually really excited for A Quiet Place. I said Part 1, it's day 1. A Quiet Place, day 1, is actually a really intriguing idea. I think it's interesting that Krasinski and the team are going backwards in terms of chronological order, as we had Quiet Place, and then there's Part 2, and now we're going back. But even 2 had that beginning intro, which kind of shows the day of, or at least the early days of when the creatures fell. Still don't know what they're called, if they have a name, but I like their design, and the idea that they're driven by sound is really cool. And that's what really makes this one stand apart, is that they're not all like quiet people. I mean, they're not like in a world that has the creatures and now are constantly like shh, or talking sign language. I don't know sign language yet. I've been really meaning to learn, especially if sound-based creatures attack and land on Earth. That would be very useful. And it's really jarring because one sets up that atmosphere so well. I remember me and my friend went and saw it. It's one of my favorite all-time movie experiences. We went to a matinee showing of it, of Quiet Place 1, before we even knew it was going to be a Part 1. And we were quiet the whole time. It was just us in the theater, and we both, like, out of both respect and of fear, genuinely were just like, the whole time. It's a very tense movie, it's a very thrilling movie, and it's just so unique in that aspect. A Quiet Place Part 2 was a bit of a letdown in some ways. That's just hard to juggle in general when you jump from people who rarely talk, only talk in sign language, or are screaming, like those are the only noises, to, oh, we're underground, so we can kind of talk lower like this now. It really throws off the vibe, especially when they got to that island with a bunch of people at the very end. It really just feels like a different movie, but still in ways building off the world that was established in the first one. And that's what I like, but I'm cautiously excited for with Day One. I feel like Day One is a cool idea in the sense that's finding an interesting question: how did this happen? When did this happen? And how was that first day? You know, what were people doing? What were people like? And I really like that Lupita Nyong'o is the star of this one. She's a fantastic actress. I really liked her in both Black Panther movies, and it makes sense they bring her back for a horror thriller, considering she was a great protagonist in Jordan Peele's Us. That shot of her where she wakes up after all the doom and destruction, and she has the dust or ash covered in her, and she's like about to start coughing, is just that shot. I was like, dang, like, is she dead? You know, I saw the preview of it on my phone and a couple of social medias, but I was like, that's what happened. It's very intense, very, very intense. Only to immediately be shushed by, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the name yet, Jimon Hisu, who had a character in the first one. You'll know him as the wizard from the Shazam movies, the guy who says, who? To Star-Lord. In the first Guardians of the Galaxy, makes a cameo in Captain Marvel. Really good actor, really underappreciated actor. I think he's awesome, and I'm really glad he's coming back in this one, not just because I like him, but because that's a cool tie-in to A Quiet Place Part 2, where we see his character at the end. So he's the one that shushes her, and it's very intense. And although it's the highlight of the trailer, it's also one of the low points, as when he shushes her and the monsters hear her, and they're all coming around, there's this like thing that the camera does where it like turns and it's like do 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 do. It looks kind of cool, but it also reminds me of like a Disney Epcot, the Hall of Presidents or whatever historical play thing where you're watching and like the stage starts turning. I couldn't help but think of that. I don't think it looks bad per se, but it definitely looks like, oh hey, they're looking at green screen. My big concern is that depending on how well this one does, they're going to keep making them or make a spin-off series, and it'll be a whole Walking Dead thing. Now, I admit I haven't seen past season 1 of Walking Dead, but I'm friends with a lot of longtime fans who said it just went on way too long, and they were only concerned about setting up like the next show or franchise, and just went past its due date. Put it like that, went past its due date. And I don't want that to happen for A Quiet Place, especially if John Krasinski is doing things other than that, like with Imaginary. So, like I said, cautiously excited, but very excited nonetheless. We'll probably go opening weekend, at the very least, $5 Tuesday. Next up, we have Deadpool and Wolverine. Yes, I did go ahead and put my newly gifted Deadpool 30th anniversary poster up just for this. I'm a basic white guy. I love Deadpool. I think both first and second one are really funny and have a really good heart to them as well. And that's really important to me. Not every movie has to be super touchy-feely, but the ways that both Deadpool movies balance them are really well done. And man, I've been waiting on this one. This was kind of one of the reasons I wanted to make this video in the first place, is because I'm so excited for this one. It's not new to say that the MCU has felt very different since Endgame, and a lot of projects just don't have the same quality as they used to, but I could make a whole other video about that. There's enough videos about that. I think this is going to be a really good one. I hope the movie is structured like the trailer, as it starts off very clearly like, hey, this is wrapping up where 2, or very technically the credits of 2, left off, with Wade going back in time, undoing certain events. I know it's an older movie, but I still don't want to spoil it in case you haven't seen it yet. And they're celebrating Wade's birthday when he is interrupted by none other than the TVA. Yes, the TVA. The TVA from the series Loki, the Time Variance Authority. I remembered it. I remember my acronyms. I think that's a really cool way to merge these two timelines, universes, however you want to call it. That's kind of been the plan since Loki, as at least it seems to me. It's very clearly, hey, this is how we're going to bring in other dimensions, timelines, worlds, but really characters. But it makes sense, and I like the look of it. I like the deal. I like the idea that he's been taken prisoner, or is going to be taken prisoner, or at least he thinks. The joke that this, trying to keep it clean here, is not new for me, but it is new for Disney, and looks at the camera, is great. Lets you know right off the bat what kind of movie you're dealing with, and the first that's very open of like, hey, Disney owns us now, but I'm still going to drop the F-bomb. That alone, I think, is going to be very interesting to see. A lot of set photos have already leaked. I'm really trying my best to avoid them. I know the very first one of just him and Hugh Jackman walking got spread around and spread like wildfire, so he had to post it himself. I don't know if that was in the plan or not. I mean, the movie is now called Deadpool and Wolverine, which I think is really cool. I like that title because that's how a regular comic mini-series or spin-off series would go. It wouldn't be Deadpool 3. It would be Deadpool and Wolverine. And it's 6 issues minimum, or however many that they do in a run. And it's about the adventures of, what do you know, Deadpool and Wolverine. What I do like is that Wolverine is not in until the very end of the trailer, and even then for a split second. The rest of this is full of Easter eggs and idea of, hey, this is the action we're coming back. Hey, we are still very much R-rated, but we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. This is a movie that I think could really make fan service and the multiverse and all of that work super well. It could be half balancing it of like, hey, isn't this cool? Hey, isn't this awesome? We're able to do this. But at the same time, knowing the tone of Deadpool 1 and 2, I wouldn't be surprised if there was something similar to the beginning of James Gunn's Suicide Squad, or Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, once we get all these characters, or if certain characters appear for the sake of fan service. Regardless, I think it'll be a really cool time, a really fun time, and it'll work really well as a sequel of sorts to the first two Deadpool movies, and become its own thing in the second half, or second and third act, and then on. Where we'll go from here, I don't know. And for once, that's a really exciting thing to say, especially when it comes to Marvel movies. I will be there Thursday night premiere, midnight premiere. I might have to call it off for work. I'm going to see it. I very much do not want this one to get spoiled for me, and we'll see it as soon as I can. Next, there's Wicked. The Wizard of Oz is a classic. I actually earlier this year saw the 85th anniversary with my folks on the big screen, and it was wonderful. It's one of those movies that's just so timeless and endlessly entertaining. I also really enjoyed Oz, the Great and Powerful back in 2013, as it gave us an interesting look into the world of Oz, obviously, but also some interesting beginnings with the Wicked Witch of the West. And it was cool to see the kind of whimsy return, but also a much darker side, especially when it came to the witch and magic and how that works in there. So my friends who really like musicals might be disappointed to hear, especially after me saying I love both the movies, I've never listened to the Wicked soundtrack. I know of some songs, I either, throughout, or they were big on TikTok for a while. I even had the book of Wicked, but before I read it, gave it to someone who, someone I won't be able to get it back to. One could say that I'm loathing the decision. What do you mean it's called What Is This Feeling? Anyways, we only have a first look, a whopping minute-long trailer for Wicked, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't interested. The world of Oz is just so interesting that I'm always down to go back there. Even if both from the looks of it, Wicked as well as Oz the Great and Powerful somehow forgot just how colorful the world was. And that was when Technicolor just became a thing. Like, that's the movie in color, to show black and white to color. I don't know what it is with color grading, but the MCU has done irreparable damage to cinema. I'm really curious to see how Ariana Grande does here. Sorry if I said her name wrong. I know we've all been saying it wrong. I know it's not like she doesn't have any acting experience, as she went and did Victorious and then the short-lived Sam and Cat. Probably some other things since then. I just haven't been able to see it or follow her that much. I know her music is obviously popular and is probably the main reason she was picked for this movie. But when it comes to singing and acting, I only know her really from a Nickelodeon sitcom from the 2010s. Whereas this is a multi-million-dollar movie based on one of the most iconic books and movies of all time. No pressure. I only know Cynthia Erivo from Bad Times at El Royale, which is a criminally underrated movie that I highly recommend. From there, I got the sense that she had a really good voice, as that's what her character did. She was a singer, or at least wanted to be a singer. So once again, showing her chops here, or it could be a reason why they picked her. And I'm sorry once again if Cynthia Erivo is actually this fantastic singer and has been in several movies and musicals. I'm not the most aware of them. I have limited experience with movies in musicals. Musical movie, you know what I'm saying. It's not that I don't enjoy them, I just don't go out of my way to watch them often or listen to them. I do like Mamma Mia, In the Heights. I like some pretty basic ones. I don't know a whole lot about Broadway itself. Probably should change that. Give me some culture. Regardless, I also think Jeff Goldblum as the Wizard is a choice. I think it's probably because he's a big name, and with the budget I'm assuming this movie has, they probably just want every big name they can to help bring people in, on top of it being an adaptation of a well-loved, famous Broadway musical. I think he'll do, I don't want to say well, I think he'll do something fun. At least I really hope he does. I hope they're not just like, hey, we got Jeff Goldblum, who's quirky and funny and weird, and then put him in this box. Like, I'm about to say something positive about Thor Ragnarok. I want him to do something like the Grandmaster, but just go more wild with it when he can. I think that fits the tone of this movie versus whatever was going on in Thor Ragnarok. See, you know I'd say something negative to counteract it. That's how I am. That's how I am. But even regardless of casting, oh, I almost forgot about Michelle Yeoh. Love her. Love, love, love her. Yes, a lot of it is because Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I know she's done other things than that. Really excited to see what she does here. And same with Jeff Goldblum. Really hope they don't just box her in and she's this wise, ancient person. I hope that she gets to have fun too, because to me that's what a lot of movies, especially ones like this, and what works so well in something like Wonka, is that you can tell everyone's having fun. And like any good musical or stage production, and especially in a movie, I will contend even now, it should be shown that these people are doing something that they love versus, hey, I'm doing this for a paycheck. Regardless, I'm pretty excited for Wicked. I think it could be a lot of fun. I'm sure there'll be another trailer. Maybe I'll do another video just about that, as I'm sure this one is getting even longer than I intended to. Sounds about right. I don't know if I'll catch it opening weekend. I may wait just to see. It's also fall, which is pretty busy. I'm really hoping I don't break a leg again. And yeah, I'll probably catch it $5 Tuesday. And last but not least, for Volume 1, we have Despicable Me 4. I'm still a really big fan of the first Despicable Me. That was, dare I say, core memory to when I moved the first time. And even though it wasn't the same year, it was when I was still just kind of adjusting to it. And, you know, movies, I think honestly since then kind of became my escape. And I just remember having a really fond memory of going to see that first Despicable Me movie with my dad, and then going back to school and like everyone talking about it and, you know, how funny are the Minions? And the Minions are something. They're something. They are the cinematic equivalent to the Raymond Raving Rabbits, and that they're really obnoxious, but they do occasionally make you laugh. And I think that's kind of what it's come to. We don't need a fourth Despicable Me movie, and this is technically the 6th entry in the Despicable Me franchise, which is way too many if you ask me. But they still get pretty decent reviews, and they still bring in a whole lot of moolah. So it makes sense why Illumination is still making them in any way, shape, or form. That's just how the business is. And it almost seems to be their financial crutch, because every other movie that they release is a Despicable Me movie. You know, it was Despicable Me 1, and then The Lorax, which is, you know, kind of gained a cult following, and I still like that one as well. But then the year after, Despicable Me 2. And then 2 years after, they make the Minions. And it just kind of keeps ping-ponging back and forth between, oh, we have this idea, make another Minions movie. Oh, we have this idea, make another one. And I'm like, I'm honestly kind of worried now that that's what's going to be with Mario. And I really enjoyed the first Mario Bros. Movie. It's barely a movie, but it's a lot of fun to watch. But after it breaking $1 billion, I was like, oh, we're getting we're getting an adaptation of every Mario game after this. They will, whether we make it to 1 billion with them or not, they will make money. And that's just something that's become a big thing with animation in general, is how much people are or aren't breaking the mold or pushing the boundaries. And I think at the end of the day, Despicable Me 4 just doesn't need to happen. Will I go see it? More than likely not. But if I'm that curious or hear surprisingly good things about it, maybe on a $5 Tuesday, I could use a laugh. I am a firm believer in animation as cinema, but I don't want to be one of those guys who's like, oh, well, I liked this movie as a kid, so now you have to say it's the best thing ever. It's like, wait, hold on. I don't know. I did see Minions Rise of Gru when my nieces and nephews were in town, and it was cute. I laughed quite a few times. And if that's what Illumination is setting out to do, then I can't fully fault them for it. They're still employing a lot of people. They're openly anti-AI art, which is, again, something else I could get into for a whole other video. But I appreciate that, because at least it shows, hey, we still have people making this. Yes, we're using technology, but we're not using technology to make technology make these movies. Does that make sense? I hope so. There you go. Despicable Me 4. Maybe. If you see it, let me know in 4 months. Thank you everyone for watching. I sincerely appreciate it. I haven't made videos, I realized, in a while or consecutively, just because I'd always go, oh, is this going to be good enough? Oh, is this going to be, you know, something people will like? And like all art, I think it's something I want to do. I should do it when I want to do it versus how I feel about it. But especially recently, I've got a ton of people asking me about movie recommendations, or are you going to do a review on this? And so that's what I'm going to take this time to say is please, please, please don't be afraid to message me, whether you know me personally or one of my pages. I'm working on the Facebook one. I have the Twitter one up. It's not super active. I'm really active on Instagram, The Critical Zachman. Or comment below. Let me know what you want to see, your thoughts on these movie trailers, what takes of mine you agree, disagreed with. If you're a big musical nerd and I just said absolute garbage regarding Wicked and anything about that industry, my sincerest apologies. I do think that the musical theater, as snobby as some people can be about it, is really awesome. And it's cool to see it still be so highly regarded 100 years later. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you next time. Same Zach time, same Zach channel.